By the raise of hands, who's attended a class before? Good, most of you. Cool, thank you. By raise of hands, raise your hand if this is your first time. 2 people. Cool, 3 people. So here's kind of the flow how I like to make the classes work. We're going to take about 50 minutes per class, kind of like when we were in college. I did go to college here at Slick. I like to give you 10 minutes of break, stretch your legs, answer phone calls, use the restroom, network with other investors. I like participation. The more that you guys ask questions or concerns or challenges, I'm going to leverage other people in the audience to help you learn to get better. We're focusing on landlording. So by raise of hands, who currently owns at least 1 rental property right now? Good. Who owns it? Okay, keep your hands up. This will give you a better idea. If you own 2 properties, 3 properties, 4 properties, 5 properties, 6 properties, 7 properties, 8 properties, 9 properties, 10 properties. Cool. Mr. Law and I. Great. So I just picked up my 57th door last month. I'm now buying them all seller financing. We're not going to be focusing on that right now. But I'm not the sharpest cat. I'm just sometimes funny for Jeff Catch. So if I can get rental properties, so can you guys, okay? So what I'm going to emphasize, I actually completely changed this presentation on Wednesday. And the reason why is my staff hates it. The reason why is it's like what I know as a landlord, I forget other people don't know. Does that make sense? Like I've just done this for 10 years. It's like second nature. I'm like, why are you doing this? Or why didn't you do this? Or didn't you do this? Where I could say, hey, have you thought of this? Or maybe you could have thought of this. It's just like so second nature to me. That's why I want to share this information to help you guys streamline this. So I wrote this down on the side. I want you to have 3 objectives from the landlording class today. Everyone needs to write down 3 objectives they want to accomplish in 3.5 hours. If we accomplish those objectives, we did a good job. If we didn't accomplish those objectives, then I want you to get with Trevor on Monday and share what your objective was so that we can help you with that. So everyone take a minute and write 3 objectives, what you want to accomplish out of this next 3.5 hours. Esquire, Benga Key. 4. Okay, raise your hands once you have those 3 written down already. Yeah, I'm going to give 1 more minute. You might think of something else that's better, so that's okay if you want to add a 4th. Hi, Linda. Okay, now if you're already ahead, if you notice on the right, I want you to write down 3 challenges being a landlord that you have. And everyone's going to be in completely different places, which is kind of exciting. Write down 3 challenges that you foresee or have, or you're scared of, as a landlord. Hi. Hey, do you mind wiring me $118,000 today? You got it. Good. That was a covenant. You heard that. That's a binding agreement, oral binding agreement. So write down 3 challenges you have as a landlord or owning rentals that you have right now. You raise your hand if you wrote down your 3 challenges as a landlord property manager. We've got a couple more minutes. We'll take 1 more minute. Be surprised to know what that is.
You should.
I should. Okay. Do you guys mind share what is an objective you guys want to accomplish? Yes, Jeff.
What things do you never purchase for a rental property?
Ooh, that's an objective. What things do you never purchase as a rental property? Okay, who else has got one they want to share? Jane?
Filling the units as fast as possible.
How to fill the units as fast as possible. Dave?
Containing turnover.
How to minimize turnover.
Yep.
Doc? Other docs?
Finding really good tenants.
Finding good tenants. Lyle?
Kind of the same as the first content, but rehab content.
Rehab content. How to rehab economically?
Yeah, get your best, what goes the farthest is for attracting tenants.
Okay, good. Cheat?
Chung.
Chung?
Yeah.
I like calling you Cheat, because I've always called you that, though. Actually, everyone knows I call you Cheat. I got 4 texts yesterday.
Is to find Trevor, or get Trevor on my team.
Get Trevor on your team? Trevor, you available?
I'm kidding. I'm just good staff team.
How to delegate good staff. Okay, good. Those are good ideas. Eric?
When to sell.
When to sell. Ooh, okay, Edie. At the end, you got to bring up rolling up. Will you please write that down? Rolling up. Okay, that gives a good idea. Objectives. Now concerns. What are people's concerns as landlording or owning property? Yes?
Ongoing repairs.
Ongoing repairs or maintenance. Okay, good. Who else has got stuff? Yes?
Eviction.
Eviction. Okay, who else? No one else has concerns? Okay, go ahead.
Collecting money.
Collecting money?
Mine was the same one.
Collecting money? Cody?
How they treat your home.
How they treat your home? Okay.
If you have a problem in your house, how do you deal with it?
How do you deal with problems? Okay.
Tenant training.
Tenant training. Okay.
Liability.
Liability. Good. These are really good things. I'm going to say we probably covered 90% of those things with this naturally. So this will be really good. Okay. So guys, take good notes. We keep this as economical as possible. That's why we don't provide handouts. Because everyone's like, oh, we don't want to pay more than we want to, and it takes time to put together information. Funny comment, my February class, who came to my February class? You guys liked it? Good? Mm-hmm. I paid 4 people to put the binders, no, that was in December. I paid 4 people during our Christmas party that night at Friday to come to my office to put binders together from 7 to 11 o'clock at night. Just, they were pissed. So, it's not a great way to spend your Christmas holiday party. So we'll make it more economical and you guys write good notes. Okay. Thank you for attending. This is a disclaimer. I'm a professional real estate investor. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a realtor. Like Skeletor, I'm not a general contractor. I do have a mortgage license, so I will give mortgage advice. I will defer to the other professionals here in the room, or I'll say this is my own personal experience, but need to consult someone. So investing is investing. You're wanting to earn a rate of return. And it's all based on your knowledge, your skills, or how good your power team is, okay? So, as we start, 10 keys of being an efficient landlord while holding a full-time job. By raise of hands, who has a full-time job currently right now? Good, most of you. Raise your hand if you're a full-time real estate professional. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cool, okay, good. So these keys, even if you're a full-time real estate professional, will give you lots of things how to streamline your time so you can maximize your opportunity cost. Okay. So number 1, these are just good things. Be present and accessible. So there will be 10 tips. Be present and accessible. So I'm going to share how to do that. When we have appointments, we will confirm with the client or the contractor or the real estate professional normally an hour before we meet them, because we do not want to drive all the way out there, show up, and they don't show up, right? Or they're running late. Does everyone know what their time is worth? If you went to the December class, do you guys remember what my time's worth? 600 an hour. Literally, if I'm going to go and drive somewhere, I'm on it, Johnny on the spot, okay? So, when I first started, my first rental property ever, I lived in Orem. I bought it in Magna, 3270 South Fairlane Drive, 7655 West. I was super inefficient. I drove from Orem to Magna once a week. That's a long drive, okay? Has anyone done that before? Every week? Okay. because I didn't know any better. So I was chasing my tenants. Okay, so we're going to go over tips on how to screen your tenants, be better. But why I wanted to share this is be present and accessible. Cody, you want to read that screen real quick?
Yep. If your tenants know you and like you, they are more likely to communicate with you and let you know about items before they become problems.
Okay, good. So when I show up to a house, let's be more efficient, taking it a step further. If you have someone on your staff, if you already have a contractor going out to the property, Brady, raise your hand. He used to be a male model. He's Alex Smith's lookalike.
Aaron Rodgers.
Who?
Aaron Rodgers.
No, Alex Smith. Alex Smith. You wish you looked like Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so 75. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, here's a very easy solution. If you already have a contractor going out to a house to do a service call, how easy would it be for you to say, hey, Brady, while you're already at the house, do you mind taking 10 photos of the property? Here are the following ones, and I'll pay you an extra $20. Who feels as an investor that's worth it? Okay, good. So if you're not in the financial position right now, that's okay. Brady, how long would it take you to take 10 photos of a house if I told you what to take? 10 minutes. So $20, 10 minutes. If you added that on, that's $60 an hour. Is that, if you're doing carpet, is that comfortable for you? Actually, sure. It's $120 an hour. Excuse me. Thank you. $120 an hour. Jaron, would you be open to do that for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So is that an easy solution, guys? Trevor?
We have our tenants do it too.
We also have our tenants do it. But I'm giving you an example. If you need to look at something and you already have a contractor going out there, be present and accessible. Does this help you be more efficient with your time if you have a full-time job? Absolutely. Does this make you be more efficient if you're a full-time investor? Yeah, because hopefully you're making more money as a full-time investor versus what your normal wage earner job was. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Any questions with this? Okay, number 2. Inspect 3 to 4 times a year. So if you own less than 10 rental properties, you got to inspect them 3 to 4 times a year. It's easy to do. You lump them all on top of each other, boom, 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 boom. We like to budget 30 minutes for a walk through, 15 minutes per commute. So ideally, we're hitting a house every 45 minutes when we're going to go look at properties. And we'll normally have 3 to 4 properties at the same time. So ideally, we like, if we're going to do West Side, we're going to hit all of our Kearns rentals once, and then hit all of our West Valley rentals once. And then if we're going to hit Rose Park, we'll hit all of our Rose Park rentals once, Glendale rentals, South Salt Lake rentals, Midvale rentals. As a tip, as I get to Jane for a second, the reason I like not owning houses all throughout the valley is then you can become more efficient finding or going to your properties quickly. You can also become an expert in the area. If you find a property that you bird dog or you wholesale, you're like, oh, I know West Valley. I own a house on that street. I've driven by it 30 times. Yeah, I'll actually buy it. I bought a property from Kip Roth about 4 years ago from Sloria. He had an address. I'm like, oh, I'll buy that house. I don't even have to go inside. Because it was 2 houses down from another rental that I already owned. Okay, so Jane, do you have a question?
Yeah, and this may be a woman question.
I'm not sure if I'm an expert in that.
Short answer.
Do you have a list of like things that you're checking at the property?
Yeah.
Because I don't know the dye stuff. Do you have a list of things that you are checking?
I would say, regardless of gender, we all want to probably check the same stuff.
Right.
You might.
I'm just saying that.
No.
Repeat the question.
I have your base knowledge that's different from my base knowledge.
Yeah, how about, here's a question. What are some particular things you're really interested in to check? Just curious.
Well, I'm always going to check furnace and filter.
Furnace filter, okay, what else?
On units that have washer dryers, I'm checking the dryer vent.
Okay, good. Dryer vents.
I'm looking under sinks for, especially, well, all the sinks for any kind of slow leak, any kind of water damage.
Good, you're looking under the sinks. Are you actually looking under the sinks?
Yeah.
Can I go watch you do that?
Why?
I just want to take a photo.
I've done worse things.
No, that's impressive. I was just like, wow, that's impressive. You'd be surprised. A lot of you guys don't do this. And then 2 years later, you have this big rotted out medicine cabinet, and it goes through the floors. So these are really good things to do. Okay, keep going. I'm trying to think of something I wouldn't do.
I'm always, I usually know about the roof before I purchase it, but I'm always just kind of, how's the roof doing? How's
Sure.
the water flow going?
Good. Are you going in the attic?
I'm not going in the attic.
Would your contractor go in the attic annually? Okay, good. So that's a good tip. Have your handyman or contractor go in the attic annually just to do a check. I'd probably do it right before, maybe right after a storm, before it gets really, really cold, if that makes sense, because then you can see if it has drainage problems. Do you have anyone going in the crawl space?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Again, that's my inspector or contractor.
But once you own the property, are you having anyone going in them after?
I'm not.
Okay, so
I
big
haven't thought
tip.
about that.
Has anyone had people go in their crawl space after they own the properties? 2 people, 3 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I would encourage you guys to do that. Here's 2 things that have happened to me based on crawl spaces. 1, we have had water draining in the house without a pipe. That easy? I'm pretty seasoned, right? So I bought a house and I was too dumb that the water pipe drained in the house, in the floor.
Septic tank under the house.
Nope. Okay, I've done 57, so learn from my mistakes. So you guys gonna have someone go in the crawl space? I can't hear anyone.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Okay. Attic. And I don't tell my wife this or she would really be uninterested. So, the second one, I recently bought a property that was a flip. We did not check the we did not check the trusses. There were 4 broken trusses in the middle of the winter. Is that a concern to a buyer?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. There you, blah, 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 blah. We fixed it, but these are basic stuff that we sometimes don't know to do or think we are so good at what we do that we don't check. Okay? So, why you inspect your properties 3 to 4 times a year? It also helps you prevent drug abuse, right? Meth labs. I've got one house that had 7 marijuana plants. There was a door that was, you had to have a big mechanical lock. I think it was before you started. That I'm not going to tell my wife about either. And we were like, what's up with this door? We evicted them. We got our guy to it's this is really hard to take out the door. After we took out the door, there was 5 big plants. I'm like, dude, can you sell that and we can split the profit? Just joking. So, but that's why you got to check your properties, okay? No one's going to care more than you do. Real quick, Margine. I like checking them right when the seasons are starting. So I would do it right now. If you're getting turning on your swamp coolers, turning on your sprinklers. I kind of call it conference weekend. Okay, if you're only going to do it twice a year, I do it right in the fall before it gets really cold. Right now in the spring. If you're going to do it 4 times, just do it religiously the first month of each quarter, the second month of each quarter, or third month of each quarter, and then you can knock them out. Okay? And what's even better, if you're smarter than me, is write down your checklist, so then you give it to your maintenance person, whoever it is, and then they're just going to follow it. If anyone read the book E-Myth, a little bit, you guys would all write that down. I'd write the book E-Myth. It talks about systems. We all want to get better at systems.
As in E-M-Y-T-H.
Yeah, E-Myth.
E-Myth Revisited.
E-Myth Revisited? Cool, thank you. Someone else had a question? Yes.
So do you have to work that into your contract saying that you're going to do these annuals, or
You can inspect the property anytime you want if you give them enough notice per your contract.
Okay, do you require the tenants to be there, or does it not matter?
No. Margine, you had a question?
Yes.
Good question.
What do you look for with the meth lab?
What do I look for with the meth lab?
Watch Breaking Bad.
Watch Breaking Bad. They're experts. This is a show on the History Channel, or AMC, one of the two. Meth labs, quick comment with that. How about if you think it'd be, okay, you probably have plastic or aluminum in the windows in the basements, so you can't see out. And they probably would have a big lock in one of the rooms that you couldn't easily go into. And Eric, go ahead.
So when you're changing your air filter, most meth tests are done in the return vent, so you can swab it and send that in for a test, so you will know.
Yeah, so the comment that Eric said is when you change your air filters, the highest concentration of meth is in the return air grill. Here's my comment with meth. When I'm having rentals, I don't want to know if it has meth or not because I just don't want to know. I just want a good property. And if I'm screening my tenants really well up front, the likeliness of that happening is probably a lot less. So if you want, I'll refer you. Here's two meth remediation guys. Apple Environmental, if you want to write that down. They could probably answer that question better than I could. And Mike Rousey with Certified Disasters. No, what's it called? Mike Rousey. Yeah, Certified Decontamination. So if you Google Apple Environmental, his name's Mark Shepard, and then Certified Decontamination, Mike Rousey, they could answer all the meth questions that you want. And I'm talking about a lab, not just mild abuse. There's a big difference.
Is there mild abuse?
Yeah, mild abuse. Yeah. Okay. 4.
Did you just get 3?
Yeah, 3. Be efficient with your time. Steve, you read up there for people who can't see the back, please?
Yes. Consolidate showings for multiple people at once. Meet multiple contractors at once when possible. Use a Google Voice link to track calls and keep a record of interested potential tenants.
Cool, thank you. So, for example, how many vacancies do we have right now?
2.
2. When's the most recent one that you looked at this week?
Yesterday.
How many people showed up?
6.
Okay, cool. So we had a vacancy. Trevor went to the property yesterday. We had 6 interested parties. How many people filled out applications?
2.
So 2 out of 6 people showed up. 2 people filled out the application. Now we'll pick whoever's the best one. Is that efficient use of our time? Heck yeah. We're not going there every day during the working hours to show up. Yes, Scott.
Trevor, when you do that, do you do like a half-hour block, an hour block? What do you do?
I keep it short, 30 to 45 minutes, because I want everybody to show up at one time because it adds competition and they're all there together. But also, I don't want to spend half the day sitting in an empty house waiting for people to show up. And if you tell people 5 to 6, you're going to get somebody show up at 5:57.
So I would do 5 to 5:30.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have more than one possible tenant come at the same time.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
All of them at the same time.
All of them. Yeah. So, quick example. I own 2 houses on one street. Excuse me. In West Valley, 3131 South, 3140 West, 3151 South, 3140 West. And then I own another one, 2 over, 3170 South, 3085 West.
Yeah.
So, had 2 people 2 years ago during the, it was like 4 years ago. Yeah, during the economy. Both of them lost their jobs. One was a window installer, one was a plumber. Really good tenants. They lost their jobs. They're both like, we cannot afford rent. We got to move out. We got to move in with our family. We want to let you know, what can you do to help us? So I'm like, thank you for I'm sorry you lost your jobs. Thank you for letting us know. If we can fill the vacancies before your next rent payment is due, we will allow you out of your lease. Is that fair? They're very fair. We said, here's what you need to do. You need to be able to be accessible and show the properties whenever we need to, because then we won't charge you extra rent. We'll provide you something in writing acknowledging this. Were they happy to show the property? Absolutely, because they don't want to be on the hook for rent.
Yeah.
So this is when it was just Lonnie and I. So I went to one of the properties, because I just like going sometimes, and I booked them. I double booked them. I booked one from 5 to 5:30, and the other one from 5 to 5:30, the other one from 5:30 to 6, and they were literally like 4 houses away. And so one family would, 5 families would come, like, hi, whoa, this is a lot of people. I'm like, hey, this other house, 4 houses down, is going to be available in 15 minutes. I bet they'll let you go in early. Do you guys want to go? And I walked in one family at a time in 5-minute increments. So I walked around, since it's not a big house, like 1,200 square feet. Walked them around. What do you think? Go to the other house. Hi, next family. Walked you around. Here's what's really cool. I got 2 Section 8 tenants from it. The previous tenants weren't Section 8, and both the tenants still live in the property. And it's been there 4 years. I think we rent them out for like $1,150 to $1,200. Our payments are about $800. So call it $400 a month. 4 times 12 is $4,800. Times 2, $9,600. times 4, it's like 36 grand. Is that good? It's awesome. So it's just learning how to like stack them on top of each other. Yes?
Section 8 where the state pays it.
Section 8 is a government subsidized health program that's offered by the state, the county, and certain cities.
So guaranteed money, you don't have to fight it.
Most of the time, depending on what their qualifications are. I'm pro Section 8, but we screen them just like any other tenant. So we screen them just like anyone else. Yes?
Are they typically less turnaround than regular tenants?
I've only had 3 Section 8 tenants move out ever. 4. One, they lost their Section 8 voucher because they violated it. It sucked. I felt bad for them. Single mom, 3 kids, and their kid had a kid. So they lost their voucher. Number 2, one's moving out right now. The housing reduced the income from her, so she's not eligible for a 3-bedroom anymore. She's only eligible for a 2-bedroom. She lived with us for 3 years. Her mom was Section 8, also lived with us for 4 years. Her mom passed away, so she's been there 7 years. Another lady, were you here with Latasha Butler?
No.
Another lady in Midvale was there 4.5 years. She just relocated out of state. She was done living in Utah. Ooh, another one. This other guy lived in New York. He lived there for 5 years. His mom got sick, so he went back to New York. And one other, we actually did evict a Section 8 person for the first time this year because they wouldn't cover their portion, and they never paid us their deposit. And we were very, very, very manageable with them, with their caseworker, and they just didn't get it, and they lost and got kicked out housing. So I'd say we've only evicted one. One lost it, and the other 3 just moved out of state.
Out of how many?
57. So let's say I've owned at least 20 since 2006. So, large portion. Yeah. Did someone else? Yes.
So, I mean, for Section 8, I mean, when this, at first place, their financial situation is not that good. But I'm just curious what kind of criteria you screen them. Use that as
So the question was, if their financial situation is not that good, there's a lot of reasons why people are in Section 8. They could be recently divorced, have a deadbeat spouse, they have 3-4 kids, just don't have the income to survive. There's a lot of different reasons. Some people are on disability legitimately. They can't go out and work. So what we do is we screen them like anyone else. I care about their work history or landlord history most, and then their credit. We'll go over this more. Also, if we like them, like there's some Section 8, there's one lady on a house, it is like cleaner than my house. It is impeccable every time we go by it. It's like, wow, Nickel Drive. We're like, could you please live in all of our houses? No, seriously, it's really tight. Like, it's just clean. And then there's other people who you're like, oh gosh, how can you live like this? But I got friends who make a lot of money, and I go to their house, and I'm like, oh gosh, how do you live like this? So it's all relative, right? So you just need to qualify them like anyone else. But I like, in one of these questions we'll go through, like we ask the questions over the phone.
But you cannot
discriminate
them by the income.
No, I go off their guaranteed. If they have a guaranteed voucher, so like let's say their rent is $1,100 and they only have to pay $100 of it, and most people I think can cover $100, so I would qualify them as quickly as anyone else. At the end of the day, we want the best qualified applicant at the time. So whoever is the best. Yes.
Same question. It was just the same question.
Oh, go ahead. The gentleman behind you.
When someone does break the lease, do you just move to evict them, or do you move to enforce the lease?
So when someone breaks the lease, could you give me a more specific example? They don't pay their rent? Yeah, so what we do with that, great question. I'm a little more merciful than some other landlords on their dates. I give everyone until the 5th, kind of like a mortgage. Most people's mortgages are due by the 15th, then they have a small late fee. We do until the 5th, because who gets paid by the 1st? I understand that. So we are on the 5th, and we're like strict. If they haven't paid by the 6th, then we call, hey, are you okay? And then where's the rent? If the 6th happens to be on a Sunday or a Saturday, we give them the following Monday. We're giving them the benefit of the doubt. One thing that we do, though, is we have all of our tenants, though, deposit rent at U.S. Bank. U.S. Bank has a lot of locations in Utah, They have Smith locations. I should be paid by U.S. Bank. I should be wearing a U.S. Bank shirt. They are open from 9 until 7, Monday through Friday, and then 10 until 5 on Saturday. If a tenant can't fit that schedule, that they work every day, those hours, tell them to go get a different job. If that makes sense. We want them to be able to pay with that. So, to answer your question, if they haven't paid by the 6th, we normally, depending on what their reasoning is, we'll probably drop off still a 3-day pay and vacate to CYA. And if they haven't fulfilled it, we start the eviction immediately. Not very merciful with that anymore.
It doesn't matter if it's a year lease.
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't care if it's month to month. They're out. And then if, depending on how aggressive, if they cooperate, I don't like, if someone can't pay you rent, kind of feel like they've got bad things going on, I'm not going to go after them. Just, I'm fortunate that I don't need to. If they're freaking pricks about it, we're going full force. I'm in. If anyone's dealt with me when I'm not pleasant, imagine that 3 times. Does that make sense? Just, we're not merciful.
So what are your options then? Go full force.
We hand it over to our eviction attorney, and they're pretty aggressive. So we got like 5 questions. We're going to go this way. Yes?
So you touched on how they deposit rents. Have you looked at online rent payment options?
Yeah, we just haven't done it yet. We're working on getting more efficient. We're going to upgrade some stuff this year just to be better at it.
So you want to move towards that?
Yeah. I like them going to the bank, though, and like depositing a check. I do, or actually, let me go back. No checks. Want to write that down? No checks. Cash, money orders only. Checks bounce. I hate bounce checks. So cash or money orders only. If they deposit cash, if they go to the bank, they're going to get a receipt, right? So there's their receipt. If they're going to qualify for a house, they can show a money order or a cashier's check. Only cash, no checks. Yes?
That you use a deposit card.
A what?
A deposit card.
What's a deposit card?
Our renters, it's like a credit card. They can pay from an ATM machine.
Never even heard of it.
I've never heard of it. Has anyone else heard of a deposit card? 2 people? Want to write that down? Deposit cards?
Deposit cards.
I think some of
I get them, where I have my LLC, that sells properties in the LLC. So at Chase Bank, they give me deposit cards.
Okay.
So all my renters have a deposit card. They can pay from ATMs. They can pay from other banks, I believe.
Huh.
Any Chase Bank. And then, like you do, I just pull it up and
Sure.
There's the money sitting in the account. There's no rent.
Sure.
Nothing like that.
It sounds like something maybe specific Chase Bank maybe offers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. And
That's cool, though.
I would think if U.S. Bank had it, they would be telling me about it every time I go to the bank. But no, that's good. We'll look into it. Thank you. We're going to keep going this way. Yes?
There's rent reporters. I've heard of those. They'll have their tenant build credit. It will
Sure.
the bureaus. Plus, they have to pre-deposit funds.
So you're giving an example how they can build their
They
credit.
can build their credit, plus you're going to be paid on time.
Sure. So they can build their credit and be paid on time. It's called what?
Rent reporters are
Rent-
3 different services.
Rent
out there.
reporters?
That's
Cool.
what I think of. One question I had and I've been burned by this, do you ever accept a payment plan with your renter?
Not anymore.
I don't either.
Only like, let's say they're behind and we're going through eviction. We let our legal counsel decide what they can afford.
Yeah.
We used to do that. I don't like payment plans if they can't pay it all up front.
Yeah, because it starts the process.
Yeah. So good question.
The attorney's office will do that sometimes to avoid eviction, but that's the only time.
Yeah, we let our legal counsel deal with that. Hold on with you. I'm going to keep going this way.
What are your options of secrecy to get tenants out faster than the statutory eviction period? If you want to know.
We just did that.
Pay for keys.
Pay for keys?
No.
Take the front and the back door off.
No. So the question...
And drive away in your truck.
The question is, how do you get tenants out quicker? What was one of the first comments? They should like you, right? So like if the tenants, I gave you the example, the 2 tenants that lost their jobs, they paid rent. They told us, hey, we cannot afford to pay rent. We got to let you know. We don't want to be evicted, but we want to move out. If you have good relationships with people like that, they're going to not have to really fight them. Let me think. I don't offer discounted anything. have them move out quicker is they move out within the 3 days, then I won't go after them. They're really motivated with that. Because if you go to court and they file a judgment, if you don't go to court, the judgment goes against you. So, quick example. I bought a house. Kevin saw this house. And Dave saw this house. I bought a house in Magna. Bought a house in Magna last year for a flip. The wholesaler bought it for $25. They sold it to me for $45. I put into $30 and sold it for $130. This house was hammered. Yeah, it's a pretty good deal. Most people, actually, I would say, I bet 2 people in here would have bought the house because this is the reason. They had a family member live there for 7 years and never pay any money to the seller. So it's very, very uncomfortable. And they are like, we don't have many people who would stomach this. Would you do it? I'm like, sure. Yeah. So when we bought the house, I went to the property. That was like way, way far. Tyler? It was Chihuahua. What did you learn yesterday, Chihuahua? 2 days ago?
Always read the paperwork.
And?
That was the big one.
Okay, and make sure you read it before your client sign it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We'll talk about that later. We'll have a picture of him on here. So, back to this Magna opportunity. Went to the property. Here's why I'm sharing this with you. Went to the property, said, hi, I now own your house. I'm sorry. She broke down. Like, I'm sorry. Dropping bombs of glory. I'm like, hey, I apologize. What'd she sell it for? That's proprietary. I'm going to sue her. I'm sorry. You got to move out. So I said, here, I'm sorry you're crying. She's like crying more than the week. Okay? She's crying. I said, here's your option. I have to legally give you a notice to vacate because we changed ownership. You don't have a lease in that tax. Bombs of glory, bombs of glory. This was in the 1st of November. I said, here's this eviction. Call me in 3 days to see if you can move out. I can't, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I want to work with you. If you let me go and look inside the property just to see if there's any health and safety concerns that I would want to fix immediately to comfort you for the next little bit, let me go look at it. So what am I saying? Hey, I want to get inside the property, right? I bought the property sight unseen. I could only drive by it. Saw the property. I was like, oh, wow, this is great. It's like, oh, we've been making upgrades. We got pad now. Okay? No, seriously, it was really, really bad. So why I'm bringing this up, we went through the eviction process, but I didn't evict. So I told our counsel, Jeff Braylio doesn't do evictions. We use Colmore & Associates, Kurt Colmore Jr. I said, hey, here's the situation. We bought a house. We need to get them out, but I do not want them to have an eviction against their credit. I just want to go through the process so there's a lockout. What do we do? I never experienced this before. It's like, okay, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I want to do this. So we paid like $500 to go through the process. They had to formally go through the eviction, but didn't file a judgment. They just scheduled a lockout. She got a notice from the court saying, you're getting locked out. I'm like, I told you this would happen. Bombs of glory. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, hey, look. And I gave her an example. I'm like, I'll let you stay 3 weeks if you let our contractors work on the outside of the house before it gets too cold. And she did. She let us re-side the house, repaint the house, put on a new roof. It worked out really good, except for the roofer showing up at like 9 o'clock at night on a Friday night because she doesn't have anything else better to do when it's cold outside. So why I'm sharing this with you is if I didn't establish that rapport on that first meeting, she could have drugged it out, right? But we let her move out. We gave her till Thanksgiving weekend. It was like 5 extra days. I was okay with it because the outside was already worked out really well. She moved out. At the time of the lockout, I told the constable, I'm reminding you, don't send this to court. She'll move out. So they didn't send it to court. Doesn't go against her credit, and she moved out. So it's good to work with your clients to know what the situation is. Does that make sense? That kind of gives you lots. That's like buying at the auction or sight unseen. This house was way freaking hammered. Not a good rental, awesome flip. Okay? So going back to number 4, because we got a lot more to go over. Did I answer everyone's question? Set monthly rent competitively. Padawan. Lay out, por favor.
What?
Said read, please.
Oh.
Really bad Spanish.
When there's competition to be your tenant, you can select the best candidate. The quality/condition of your property will determine the quality of tenancy you want to rent.
Cool. So when we gave the example of Trevor, he had 6 people there yesterday. We don't care if they're Section 8 or regular. We just want the best one. Went back a couple slides before. We want as many people there as possible to be efficient with our time. Set the tone of your business relationship before you move in. So when you're filling people out, you're having these types of conversations to let them know what you are. Here's an example that we like to share. Hey, we are awesome landlords. We will fix stuff on time. We will make sure the property is in good working condition. You got to pay your rent on time. Okay. Well, here's the paperwork confirming that we'll do what we say and you do what you say. And as long as they know up front, we don't work with you on late fees, stuff like that. But the more you communicate with us, the better. So it works really good to have that type of relationship. Kevin, you want to share that real quick? Oh, did we already read that one?
No.
Oh, yeah, Kevin.
So be professional, set and follow rules, maintain your schedule, hold tenants to their commitments. If the tenant can't follow instructions, can you trust them to make their rent payment?
Cool. So one thing that we do, and we'll share this again, anytime we have a verbal conversation that we probably need to send a letter in writing because a lot of people don't remember stuff, we will send them a letter referencing what our conversation was and we'll keep it in their file. Because then when they get a letter, they're like, oh yeah, that's what we discussed. Because sometimes people forget or misunderstand. That makes sense. 6, preventative maintenance saves emergency repairs. What are some preventative maintenance that you guys can think of saves emergency repairs?
Roto-rooting.
Roto-rooting? Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Doing your seasonal inspections, maintenance items.
Good. Seasonal inspections, maintenance items. What else?
Rain gutters.
Rain gutters. Rain gutters are huge, especially on older houses before the 50s. It's amazing. We stick rain gutters on all of our houses, full gutters, as soon as our budget allows because of slip and falls. Has anyone ever had a slip and fall accident before? Has anyone been pending suit on a slip and fall accident before? All right, cool. So learn from us too. The ironic thing, you want it? No, we'll skip it. Okay, good. Actually, why don't you read this one next?
Proactive with minor issues before they grow into major back problems.
Back problems, okay? Major back problems. Jane gave a good example. Just her checking up underneath the sink. If the tenant has a bunch of stuff in the sink, do you think they notice that there's water if it's just a low drip? No, they got so much stuff underneath the sink. So just checking those things goes a long way.
So Matt, about the ring gutter thing?
I'm sorry?
About the ring gutter.
Sure.
So you install the whole brand new, but you planning to clean it up, after fall, the leaves, branches, stuff.
Do I do fall cleanup?
Yeah.
So the question was, just so everyone can hear, do I put on full rain gutter? Yes. Do I do fall cleanup? No. I let that be the responsibility of the tenant. Unless like a large branch falls down, yeah, we would take care of that. But them raking leaves, that's their responsibility to make the yard look better.
How many actually do that?
Most of them. All of them, unless we get a citation from the city. So the question is, how many tenants have actually clean up? If you set the standard that one question we ask is, when do you want to own a home? Right? What is that doing? Instilling home ownership. We want them to treat our home like their home, so most of them are pretty good at taking care of the yards. Obviously, like, I don't do the work myself, not even at my own house. Maybe they sub it out to their cousins. So, but they take care of most of those items themselves. Good question. Be stubborn about your qualification criteria. Reggie, do you want to read this, please?
Protect yourself against bad decisions regarding your tenants, and don't open yourself to accusations of discrimination.
Oh, cool. So, we're an equal opportunity landlord. We rent to whoever is the best qualified. We don't care if they're tall, medium size, got curly hair, no hair, big calves,
college students,
just whoever's the most qualified. We do follow the town or county municipality rules. So, for example, if there's 4 unrelated people that want to rent a house and the city or the town doesn't allow that, we say, hey, the city or the town doesn't allow that. So it's good for you guys to be familiar with that. 8, make rental insurance mandatory for all tenants, no exceptions. So stupid. Oh, here's why it's stupid. But raise of hands. Who currently requires their tenants to have landlord's policies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Cool, I'd say a quarter of you. Good. Linda, can you read this, please?
Sure. Disasters happen. Help your tenants help themselves and prepare for unforeseen challenges.
Okay, good. What would be an unforeseen challenge?
Fire.
Fire? Who's ever had a fire in their house? 1, 2, 3. What is this?
Smoke.
Yeah, that's fire. Was it weed?
No.
I only asked it because I know who you are.
I was renting, and my renter's policy had actually expired, but they hadn't sent me a notice it expired, so they still let it be enforced. But the power went out in the building, and we had something cooking on the stove, but forgot about it because the power went out. We left, came back, the power had come back on, and the thing on the stove had essentially incinerated and just smoke filled the whole apartment.
Gotcha.
So we had lots of smoke damage, but it was covered by a renter's policy because they hadn't notified us that there was a fire.
Oh, that's good. Good. So smoke, I've had a fire. Anyone else? Yes?
How about a backup of the drain?
Backup drain. Is that renter's policy? No?
If
Can
they
you cover
caused
that?
it.
Can you cover that in the insurance policy? We, on our policies, we pay a little extra for sewer damage and have the highest amount to get refunded back because that happens more frequently than you would think, but that's not covered in a renter's policy. Floods, very common. We had a flood, 2 floods last year. One was caused by poor bathroom habits of the tenant, and the other one was caused by bad washing machine hose. So the one bad caused by the first one was $16,000 in damage. It went from the first floor all the way down to the second floor. It was a big mess. So the tenants call me. They're like, "Oh, we got water damage." I'm like, "Oh crap! Where's the water coming from?" "We don't know." "Okay." So I actually used to live in this house. Here's where the water shutoff is. Go down this. I'm like talking to him on the phone. Go down the stairs to the left in that closet. It's on the far right side. You turn it off. Yeah, I turned it off. Okay, cool. Okay, is there water still? Yeah. I'm like, okay, that's weird. Where's it? It's upstairs. Oh, it's upstairs. Okay. Is it the toilet? No. Okay. Is it the sink? Go underneath, check the sink. Nope, it's not the sink. Okay. Is it the shower? No. Are you sure it's not the toilet? No. Okay. Call a disaster cleanup company, or they'd already called one. They've called one. Their one's on their way. One of my friends, I'm like, hey, he's a contractor, Rick the roofer. I'm like, hey, will you please do me a huge favor? These guys say they have a water problem. They don't know where the water's coming from. I turned off the water with them over the phone. Can you go there? He's like, yeah, sure. So he shows up. He's like, dude, they freaking plugged the toilet. And I was so pissed. They could have just said we plugged the toilet, but I asked them twice. And how stupid are they? Oh, go downstairs and turn the water off at the main, right? Like, you guys get that? But they are like so embarrassed that they're like, oh, we plugged the toilet. But it's $16,000 worth of damage. So, oh, shiz is right. Okay?
Flush the toilet, make sure it goes down.
Yeah, flush the toilet, make sure it goes down.
So I don't know if this qualifies for the last point, but the one of the things that I've found is that there are remote water shutoffs that automatically detect an excess amount of water, like near the main, or near a water heater, or near dishwashers or whatever, and it will shut the water off the house. You don't have to worry about talking to people. It costs $100.
Has anyone heard of that before? No. An automatic shutoff, one person that has a good haircut but doesn't participate. Cool. What is that called again?
It's just Google it. It's like an automatic water sensor.
Trevor's writing that down. Automatic water shutoff sensor.
Yep. Cool. Yep. And it's just a sensor you drop on the floor. It's either wire or wireless, and you run it right to a shutoff valve that you install just upstream of the main. It shuts it all off. Don't worry about it.
Go ahead.
They're getting better. We were learning about these products. They're getting better, but you don't want the ones that they first came out with.
You want products that have been seasoned or tried a little bit, so maybe a second or third upgrade. It's kind of like a remarriage. Okay, just joking. Love my wife. I'm her second husband. And that's all done. Okay, number 8. Make rental insurance mandatory. Okay, we went over that. Okay, cool.
Matt?
Yes.
What about liability on the rental insurance?
We'll cover that later today. Okay. Work with your tenants. Scott, can you read that, please?
Happy tenants will stay and will take care of your property. Consider the long term when responding to questions or requests. Create a mutually beneficial relationship.
Okay, so my wife taught me this my second year of owning rentals. She's like, your tenants are your customers. They're totally your customers. You got to treat them that way. We have 57 rentals on average. I think our rent's $850 a month. It's like $52,000 a month. So that's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of business. So 52 times 12, $600,000 in revenue a year. You got to make sure you're being nice. It's easy. Just give rule of thumb. Treat them like you'd want to be treated if you were renting. All of us probably rented once in our life, or not, possibly might rent again and looking to get more rentals right now. So just remember that nice landlord that fixed stuff versus the other landlord that never called you back. It's a profession. We're here to develop and polish our skills so we can get more efficient. So at the end of the day, we make more money. Okay, never stop learning about your business. Tracy, what do you do for a living? I couldn't hear you.
Property management.
Cool. What made you come here today if you are a property manager?
I can always learn more.
You can always learn more. Good. Thank you for sharing that. That's why I shared. Eric, could you read this, please?
Pay attention to market trends. Market rents and make your property competitive. What makes your property more desirable or attractive?
Cool. So, does anyone? We sent out an email. We sent out a lot of emails recently, but we sent out an email probably last week about we're at a 6-year high. Let's see, the vacancy rates are at a 6-year low. What does that mean?
Rents are high.
Rents are high. It means we can rent them like hotcakes if you have good properties. So was that the same in 2008? 2008, you had a lot of accidental landlords who couldn't sell their properties in 2008, 2009. So rents actually went down, in my opinion, because there were just more people who couldn't sell, so they became landlords. And then we've bought houses from them because they're not professional landlords. So right now, rents are high. Last year was the first time I raised rent from existing tenants. So here's a good tip for you guys. If you guys got to be competitive. Raise your rent if it's not competitive. We sent a letter to all the tenants. Thank you for being our tenant. We appreciate you working with us. As you know, we haven't raised rent in a long time due to inflation and the cost of business. We're just going to be raising it 3%. If you feel like this is unfair, you can't afford it, we understand if you need to move out. But during your renewal, we will be raising your rent 3% to the cost of living. Not one person moved out for that.
You sent that like a month or two?
No, we sent it in January.
So
we sent it
6 months.
6 months, depending on when their lease expired. We
Okay.
sent it to everyone in January. Not one person moved out. Here's what's cool. If their rent was $9.25, and at 3% of that, $27.50, hypothetically, we didn't bump it up to $30. We did it at 3%, so they're like, yeah, it's 3%, and no one complained about it. We'll do it again next year, just because if we have $52,000 in rent a month, 3% of that's $1,500. $1,500 times 12 is how much? $18,000. It's cost us business for us to get really good at raising rents or being a manager also. Jane.
Matt, do you have your leases end at a certain time? I've had all mine end at the same time, at the best time of year to get renters.
When's the best time of the year?
For me, I think it's like spring, end March, 1st of April. I don't like rents or the leases to expire November, December, January, February. But it's getting, since I've increased my properties, it's getting a little crazy to have them all at the same time. How do you stagger? How do you work that?
Okay, great question. So Jane's question is, she likes renting out her properties from, let's call it April 1st. Is that okay? April Fool's Day? But because you're becoming a real estate mogul that you should become, you don't like that they're all the same time, so you're wondering what we do. So I learned this from Jeffrey Taylor. Jeffrey Taylor's Mr. Landlord. If you've never heard of him, I'd write that down and Google him. He has a lot of good information. He came to Utah 4 years ago. At the time, I owned, I think, 24 properties, and I was stuck. It was controlling us. He came to Sloria for an hour, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've just jumped up more and more and more and more. So he has coaching classes, blah, 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 blah. I got that stuff because it's really good. Here's what he taught me with this. We want all the renewals to happen from April 1st until the end of August. So we want them to stagger from April 1st to the end of August. Unless there's Section 8, you can't do that. But everyone else. So if we acquired a property in, January, and it's renewing, we're going to give them the option to do a 9-month rental contract. Hey, Rick, we talked about you being a plumber in Orem. Everyone, this is Rick the Roofer. Let's give him a round of applause. Professional bowler. His average is 187. Oh, sorry. He also has a Jerry curl from the 80s. If any of you guys want to see that, let me know in the meeting. Okay? That's actually a funny joke. So back to landlording. So we do renewals. So hypothetically, if they were renewing in January before Mr. Landlord, I would have just done another January. We don't. We either do a 9-month one or an 18-month one. Because most people will take the 18-month one because we offer $25 less a month. Because we know they're going to be there for 18 months. So unless there's Section 8, we will always have them renew April until the end of August. I don't like September. Once people start hitting school, it slows down a lot. So I'm still buying rentals all throughout the year, but our vacancies were slower in November, December on the ones that we acquired or our Section 8 because we evicted one. So we're very conscientious of that, having that renew from April to September. Scott, then Adam.
So, previously you talked about a rent lock fee?
Yep. We still do it, absolutely.
Okay. Tell me how it works with raising the rent 3% and the rent lock fee.
Good. So rent lock fee. So last year, let me see. So this is why we didn't do it this year. So I went to a Jimmy Napier seminar in Tampa Bay, Florida. I'm telling you guys, like mentors of mine, if this makes sense. So I went to a Jimmy Napier seminar. And it was a paper course. Actually, Jeff went. Tyler was there in spirit, but not in mind. Okay. Actually, that was Riley Rogers. Riley Rogers was there, not in either way.
Peter Fortunato.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Peter Fortunato. Thanks for correcting me. Did you read it?
Yep.
Good. So Peter Fortunato was teaching a paper class. It's way over my head. It's like I got 10% of it. But here's 3 things I learned. Rent lock. We talked about this in Florida. In Florida, because our market was so soft for so long, they don't flip properties. You remember this, Jeff and Tyler? We asked, like, do you guys flip? They're like, no, there's nothing to flip. We sell notes and paper and do cash flow and get out-of-state investors to buy here. We're like, oh, that's crazy. We live in Utah. We just can only flip, flip, flip. Randall Wall, we do flip cocaine, right? So it's just like, I'm on a rush. So what the rent lock is, which we love, and we ran it by Kurt Collimore, and he's okay with this. We don't accept deposits anymore, because deposits you need to technically keep in an account and you need to refund and keep track of records. We do a rent lock fee. A rent lock fee is that we won't raise their rent the next time they renew, and it's non-refundable. And we only had one person balk at it.
2 now.
2?
Yeah, there have been 2 people that wanted something refundable.
So, for example, in Florida, they collect rent lock fees. It's basically a fee to say, in your renewal, we're not going to raise your rent. And they say, okay, and they sign the paperwork and pay you money, and it's non-refundable.
That's just the first.
How big of
we normally $600 to $900, depending on how much you're renting the property for. Like if we have a $650 duplex, we're not going to collect 9. It'd probably be like $500. But if we're collecting a $1,300 rent, probably $900.
And so this is because it's not treated the same as a security deposit.
It's not a security deposit, and our lease
it's a fee.
It's a fee.
It's a fee.
Revenue. That's only an agreement for the first end of lease, right?
Yeah, basically it's to capture more revenue and have them stay and not raise it in 2 years.
But then when you go to renew it the second time,
then I'm okay because I'm okay with that because it's every time I turn it over, it costs me $2,000, right? So If I'm just renewing them, it doesn't cost me anything.
What I'm talking about is the second time you renew it. Do you ask them for that again?
No.
You
So that's why last year, we raised everyone 3%. All the new tenants had rent locks. This year, did we raise rent? Nope. All the new tenants will do rent locks. So when we send it out next year, we won't send it to the tenants that did rent locks. We'll just keep it in our records, but we'll do it with every new applicant.
How long are your lease?
So it depends on the time of the year when we rent it out. So like in the example of January, most of the time, we're trying to get that tenant to rent for 18 months. So I would say normally 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
Yes?
So I'd love some feedback down the road as to whether or not you think the properties are treated the same, because I kind of have an issue with that. I mean, if a tenant knows they're not going to get anything back, don't you think they're not going to take care of it as well?
I don't think they think about it.
I haven't seen that yet.
You haven't seen it?
Yeah, they're gonna treat it how they're gonna treat it most of the
I
time.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you gotta stay on top of your inspections.
Yeah.
When damages happen, you're charging them.
Yeah.
You're taking it out of their deposit and you're having them replenish their deposit. Or just charging them.
Rent block fee, yeah.
I just did that, but I did half and half.
Why? You kind of wimpy?
Well, no. I wanted an incentive for them to get their deposit back so they would keep it clean.
I think if you set the expectation that they're going to take care of the house because they care, words that you tell people probably motivate them more than sometimes monetary refunds that they may get in 12 to 24 months. Yes?
Okay, so you're charging a rent lock fee which says the rent will not go up in a year. What if they only want to be there a year? So
Then they're not gonna pay it.
Then they won't pay it, so you have no deposit.
Then we get a deposit.
Yeah.
Then you will get a deposit?
But it increases our chance to keep them for longer.
Yeah,
term
we don't want 1 year
because they know
renters.
they're planning on staying there for 2 years.
It's like rent control.
Yeah.
No. How about if we want people to be there as long as possible? So one question.
People will be there long.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So what we're gonna do, and we'll answer one question. Go ahead.
So, sorry, just
It's okay.
you offer either a rent lock fee or a deposit?
We offer rent locks, and if they fight it, then they'll at least accept a deposit. Yes.
Okay, and then my original question was, you talk about setting competitive rents. How do you make sure you're setting a competitive rent for your area?
How do you guys check rents right now? Rent-o-meter, Jane?
Finest expert.
Are you sewing?
That's
why she You are multi-talented.
So, and I can think at the same time.
Whoa, whoa! Yeah, can I take that class from you?
It's a gift.
Oh.
Okay, so now you lost my train of thought.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna answer. So rent-o-meter?
Oh, okay, finestexpert.com.
Finditexpert.com? Finest.
Expert.com.
Like you're the finestexpert.com?
That's correct.
You're welcome.
So you go to that website, punch in the square footage, the bedrooms, blah, blah, blah. It will give you the rents in the area. However, you have to be aware that they're pulling the information from ads on KSL and various things. And you have to know, people may or may have not gotten those rents that they have asked.
Sure.
So
it's kind of like a listing information versus a
Yeah,
sold
it
information.
is.
Yeah. So let me share 5 more. So we have thefinestservice.com, Rent-O-Meter. I love KSL. Every time we look for rents. I also love property management companies. I have 7 that I know personally that if I called them, they would talk to me. So that's good. So property management companies. I used to also use Express Rentals. No, what's it called? Express Rentals? So Express, is that still Rental Express? Express Rentals, huh?
Yeah, Express Rentals.
Express Rentals. They are a vendor online. I think they're probably not as busy because of KSL now. They're a vendor online that a lot of out-of-state owners before KSL and Craigslist would go online and find out what rents are going for. We as landlords can post the information for free. That's also how appraisers get rental comps. They'll call Express Rentals. Now they're cheap and don't want to pay the $25 to the vendor, so they call them KSL. So I also like the newspaper. Who advertises in newspapers? Seasoned people. Could they also be buyers? sense? Who know how to convert a landlord to a buyer? One person, that's it? 2, 3, Jane. You went to that class last year, did you listen?
She was sewing.
She's sewing? She's sewing in her head? Okay, a different topic. Older individuals posted on the paper, and they a lot of times don't want to be landlords anymore. You can buy properties from them. Craigslist is really good also. And also good list is while you're driving to the property, I call every rental sign to see what they're renting the property for. And then the next question is, do they want to sell? So, does that give you a lot of tips? Cool. Okay, we're going to take a break in about 8 minutes. If you guys are okay. Would you rather take a break right now or in 8 minutes? Right now, raise your hand. Oh, 8 minutes, raise your hand. Half enough. We'll go 8. Okay. Trevor's going to help answer this for a couple minutes because he's the one that's fielding all the phone calls. He is at a master teacher. His name's Matt Atkinson. Help him. So he's going to go over 5 questions to ask potential tenants in your first conversation. A lot of good information with this.
Okay, so as I'm taking phone calls, I always try to keep in my head that whatever I'm saying to them is teaching them how to deal with me as a landlord and how to deal with us as a company. And we want to set the expectation early so that they know how to work with us. It makes everything easier down the road. Okay, the first thing I want to know is what is your current address and what is your landlord's phone number? And I've tried asking tenants this in different ways. The easiest way I can get this information as quickly as possible is make it be right after I ask what's your name and phone number. Okay, where are you living now? They'll just give you the address. Okay, what's your landlord's phone number? They'll just give it to you. Once they've talked to you for 5 minutes, or if you tell them that you're interested in buying that property to hold as a rental from their previous landlord, all of a sudden they don't want to give it to you anymore. But when they want to rent the property, when they want to rent your property, they know this is a natural part of making application that you're going to check previous rental history, so they just give it to you. Now later on, I can contact that landlord. Even if they won't give me the phone number, at least I know the address so that we can market to that landlord who 30 days from now is going to have a vacant property, and sometimes he doesn't even know it yet. Yes, Jeff?
Have you ever done anything to verify that the landlord is actually the landlord?
Yes. When I get applications, I'll look at the name of the landlord and I'll compare it to tax information. And again, asking a few key questions when you verify that. When I contact the landlord, I'll ask them to verify the address that this person lives in, things like that.
What do you ask the landlords?
So I'll say, hey, Mr. Landlord, I'm dealing with this person. I understand they're one of your tenants. Is that correct? Yes. Can you please verify the address with me? And you know, if they know the address, and there's a few other things that you can ask just to verify that it's actually the landlord and not their friend that they told to answer the phone. And I've had that happen a couple of times too. So, yes.
What about the landlords that are telling you a good story because that was the only way he could evict his landlord was they said, give me a good word or I won't leave your property?
Yeah, and you've got to take what things people say with a grain of salt. Sometimes you have to verify the landlord and cross-check a story with a tenant. Because I've had landlords tell me, oh, they were terrible, they destroyed my house, and I took a drive by the house and it looked fine and clean, actually. So you have to understand also that landlords can have a skewed perspective of what they think is destruction to property, and you have to be able to weed that out and make a good decision. I have a tenant that we put in one of our properties just 2 months ago. The landlord told me they were terrible, I'd never rent to them, they destroyed my house. I visited the house. Because it was one that they wanted to sell, so I actually made them a couple offers and it didn't work out. But you know, you've got to feel that out for both sides, because especially if it's an inexperienced landlord, what they say is destroying the property isn't going to be a big deal for us. And even if it's something simple, like one landlord recently told me that they let the grass die. Well, it wasn't too far from my house, and it's in between where our rentals are and my house anyway, so I drove by the street one day. The grass looked okay. There were some weeds, but it wasn't destroyed. So right there, I'm making notes. Okay, this landlord isn't really paying attention, doesn't know what they're talking about. and I'm going to trust the tenant more in that situation. So you have to feel it out. Okay. I always ask people if they live. Oh,
I'm leading you.
Okay, quit it. I always ask people if they live in a house or an apartment, because not only does it change how I deal with verifying their tenancy, but it also changes what my plan is going to be for whether or not I want to pursue that property. If they live in a large apartment complex, I know that I'm going to have to send a verification of rents form over to them by fax. They fill it out, they send it back. They can't answer questions like, did you like them and how did they work for you, over the phone. If it's a big apartment complex, they have procedures and protections for themselves in place, so you have to do it more formally. If it's an individual owner that owns a small multi-family property or a house, that's somebody that I definitely want to talk to and have more of a conversation with and possibly make an offer on their house. Okay, now how you ask questions to tenants will completely change how much they open up to you and whether or not they get defensive too early, okay? When I'm asking questions to tenants, I want them to tell me as much information as possible. So if you say something like, why would you want to move? And then shut your mouth. Don't talk. After they tell you one thing, just wait. Keep your mouth shut. Count to 15, count to 20. Let them start talking again. Because the more they open up and the more they start talking, you'll find stuff out that you would never learn even if you ask the right question. They won't tell you the same way as if they just open up and tell you. Okay? So think about how you ask questions. If they say something and kind of move on, be like, well, tell me more about this. And they'll open up to you. You want to know what type of people these are so that you can decide if you want them to be your customer. Okay? And if someone's a major pain in the butt, ask your attorney how not to rent to them, because you can. I got a threat of discrimination this week, but we'll see what happens. Okay. Do you plan to own your own home one day? Is this person potentially someone that you could lease option the house to and make a much larger down payment so that they have the opportunity to purchase the home and live in? You know, we asked this question because Matt is a mortgage lender and we could potentially groom these people to buy their own property in a year or two. And we have a few tenants that even after I'll run the background check, you can kind of tell if they're headed in the right direction to own their own home one day. And if they are, it's something that I'll bring up when I sign the lease with them, because you're face to face. I'll be like, hey, when do you want to buy your own house? We can help you with that. I'm a realtor. My partner is a mortgage lender. 18 months, 12 months from now, when your lease is up, do you think you'd want to buy a house? And they're going to work with you because they like you and trust you and they already have a relationship. All right. Now this is another question where you want to let the tenants talk as much as they'll tell you. And I worded this correctly because it frames it in their mind that people don't want to pay an application fee if they think you're going to deny them anyway. Okay? So before I charge you for a credit and background check, is there anything that I might find that you'd like to ask me about first? Okay? I find that that doesn't really make them defensive, and they'll tell you if they have a criminal background, they'll tell you if they have bad credit. Sometimes they'll tell you things that you know right now, okay, I really don't want to rent to this person. And you know, after they tell you, well, I've got a criminal record and I've got this or that, they'll ask you, do you think I'll be able to pass? And based on what information you find, they haven't made application yet. Remember this, they haven't sent in an application, they haven't paid a fee. So I can say, wow, you know, I think that's going to be really difficult for me, but I can't tell you for sure unless you apply and pay the fee. And 90% of the time, they're not even going to apply, so you don't have to deny them. Makes it easy. And they save their 25 bucks and they can go apply for somebody somewhere else, and I don't even have to deal with it. So this is another one of those things where I just want to listen to them talk. I want to say as little as possible, just let them keep telling me what's going on, because if they tell me that I don't want to rent to them, then I don't have to tell them that I don't want to rent to them. All right, does anybody have any questions? Anything else you would add to asking questions to potential tenants? Jane?
Just on the last one you were talking about, So you would still say, so like, you know, I have sex offenders and felons and they're telling me right out, this is what I am.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, gosh, I'm so sorry, but yeah, company policy, you know.
Yeah, you can tell them
So
what
we
your
can
rental
say-
criteria is.
So we can say that, we don't have to, it's okay to.
Yeah, yeah. Our rental criteria is we want to see 3 times income to rent. We pay really close attention to your previous rental history, and if you have a criminal background, I have to take a really close look at anything that is a violent offense, a sexual offense, or a drug offense. And that tells them right now that I don't want to rent to somebody that, well, first of all, we never want one of our properties on the sex offender registry, right? I think we can all agree that that's something we don't want to be a part of. You know, it's difficult for somebody in that situation to find a place to rent, but that doesn't mean I have to be the one that rents to them. And if you're a member of the Good Landlord Association, you can't rent to them. If they have a felony, you can't rent to them. Tyler.
How do you guys look at unemployment as far as income?
You mean if they're receiving unemployment?
Yeah. I've got a tenant right now that's applied and they're like, they told me they just got laid off because they're remodeling the building or something, so they're on unemployment.
That's going to be really tough for me to convince my manager to approve your application, but you can apply anyway.
Do they have another income?
Them personally, no.
Yeah, I would probably give them a vacancy notice to move out and find a more qualified person.
Yeah.
If you want.
Yeah.
Just like a mortgage, you can't use unemployment income to qualify if that's your main source of income.
Yeah, and it's got a deadline. It's going to end. It's got a death date on it, which means after they don't get unemployment, they don't have income. That's ground. You can discriminate based on income, right, Jeff?
It's not discriminating.
Yeah,
that it's qualification.
Okay, Jeff.
Questions?
Background checks. I understand the sex offender thing, felonies. What about small stuff? Would you accept small things?
Like?
Let me see. The boyfriend abused the girlfriend, and he's going to class. They're going to have her removed soon.
Okay.
The term that's what that is.
I'm always going to look at how long ago this was, okay? If it was 5, 10 years ago, I'm going to be a lot more lenient than if it was 3 months ago, okay? Again, that's something where you kind of have to make a decision for what you want to do and how you want to have people together. We've had instances in our multifamily properties where people don't get along and they're yelling and screaming at each other. And I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who's one of our tenants, and she fights with her boyfriend all the time. And I told her, listen, you got to stop fighting and yelling and screaming. You're bothering my other tenants, and I'm going to post a no trespassing notice for this person if it continues. And, you know, you've got to deal with things easily and communicate with your tenants so that they understand how you're going to treat them. And if you give them notice and you've told them 2 or 3 times, when you actually do it, they can't be surprised. Chi, last question.
Okay, so
Chung.
We like Chi. We've always been calling you Chi.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So what if, you know, after you're running your background check and it turns out, you know, this guy has a eviction history and also some, you know, court record, and you say sorry and you say, I swear that's not me.
Oh,
That
okay.
happened to you?
Yes.
Okay. So he's saying he pulls a background check and they have courts and evictions and lots of stuff on there, but they say that isn't me. If that happened in my situation, I would need them to provide some type of written proof or documentation from an attorney, from a court case, something that shows me that they're fighting, that isn't them. And the other key that I use a lot is I'm the property manager in our office, but I always tell people my job is to gather the information and turn it into my manager, who is Lonnie or Matt. And I'm going to make 90% of that decision, but before I rent to somebody, I go have a conversation with Lonnie and we decide yes or no. So if they know that it's not only my job, if I have to tell them no, I can always pass that blame on to the manager, because the manager is going to be more strict than me, right? The other thing is when I deny somebody, I learned this about a year and a half ago. When I tell somebody, I'm sorry, I can't rent to you, they get really mad at me, okay? What I've changed and what I do now is I say, you know what, I turned your application into my manager and I'm sorry, it's been declined. I really wanted to rent to you. I wish I could do more. And then they don't fight you. I wish I could do more, and they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, thanks for doing what you could, and they move on.
Hold on, I'm going to answer your question differently. In your scenario, if you really want to rent, here's the whole point. What is the purpose of this? To become better landlords with teeth, right? And to learn from my hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes, either by over-improving or by letting people control me as a landlord. So why I'm sharing that, if someone really has identity theft, I would say provide me your social security card, your driver's license, and if it doesn't match, when you're closing on mortgages or on real estate, if you have common names like Smith, like, hey, John Smith, when you pull title, it's going to pull up all the John Smiths in Utah, right? And then the title company has to go through the process to verify it's not John Smith, John Smith, John Smith, John Smith. Kind of common in the Hispanic community, Jose Martinez, it happens, right? They're like, yeah, that's not my Jose Martinez. I've had a Jose Martinez Jr. and a Jose Martinez Sr., and the senior had bad credit and the junior legitimately didn't, and we had to go through the process. So if they're a very good tenant and you want to work with it, take the time to do it. If you have other tenants that are more qualified, then just go on to something else.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if we're being very efficient with our time, all we're trying to do is like streamline it so we can just become really good. I'm going to do something real quick. Thanks for Trevor.
Okay.
So we'll wrap up. I wanted to share, this is Tracy. Ready, Tracy? You ready? You got a notepad? I want you to make 15 grand with this. So everyone that wants to manage their own properties, here's why. Who has bought a property from a landlord that was sick of being a landlord? Raise your hand. Adam, how much did you make on that property?
What?
The property that you bought from a landlord, how much did you make on it? Yeah. Have you sold it?
No.
Still keep it as a rental?
I'm holding it.
How much did you put down?
6 grand.
6 grand, how much you cash flow?
150.
150. So 150 times 12 is 1800, 1800. If you put any more repairs into it?
Yeah, it's flooded twice.
Okay, so unforeseen circumstances? Okay, but let's say if it didn't flood twice, that's why we're here, you'd recoup your money in 4 years, so 25%. Okay, Eric, what have you done?
We flipped it.
You flipped it, what'd you buy it for?
80.
What'd you flip it for?
200.
What'd you make?
40.
40. Okay, who else has bought a property from a landlord on a phone? Okay, I bought 5 or 6. So here's why, Tracy. All of you guys are small property management companies. Make sense? You manage your own. Tracy has staff. If she trains her staff to find this out, you'll pick up more people. Here's why. Everyone that calls is a future homeowner. So who's a realtor? Raise your hand. If you actually kept their information and had a database to mine them, and that's not you calling them, but just sending an email, hey, Sam Anderson, it was nice to talk to you. When would you like to own a home? If you sent them on a drip system every 90 days, do you think anyone else is doing that? Heck freaking no, right? So this is converting hundreds of thousands of dollars just based on this data. Because if you learn to cultivate them, if you find out a lot of them are owners of properties that are foreclosing, that if you ask, do you own or rent now? We own. Oh, okay, why are you moving? Unfortunately, we're losing it. I'm sorry to hear that. What's your situation? We don't know. Okay, who could capture we don't know? Okay, Jane? Could you capture we don't know?
Yes.
Do you make money on that?
Yes.
Okay, you just refer to me and I'll give you a quoting fee for $500. No, okay, so the whole point, does that make sense? We're teaching you guys landlording skills, but you can make money by converting the data from the tenants. Does that make sense? Every person's a client. It just depends on if you're open to converting them versus just getting them to be your tenant. Does that make sense? Got it?
Oh, these
Yeah.
are going to be typed up and they're going to staff up.
Oh, good. So this is worth right here.
Yeah.
Because this is screening information that you just build your database. Imagine this. If I kept all the tenants' information from 2004 and had a database, I'd probably close like 50 more loans a year. Because all these people are calling, I just haven't done it, so we're gonna start it. Okay? So, I wanna show different things to accomplish with this. Okay, it's 10:27 right now. We're gonna be back on a sharp 10:35 back in our seats. You know where the restrooms are, Trevor?
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner. So 10:35 back sharp. Thank you.